As we mentioned before the break, President Obama is visiting troops in Afghanistan, but right here at home, he's dealing with a growing scandal involving the Department of Veterans Affairs. So here's what happened. In 2012, a VA hospital physician, Catherine Mitchell, warned that the Phoenix emergency room was overwhelmed. So she filed a complaint to the VA Inspector General. Then in 2013, Sam Foote, a doctor of internal medicine in Phoenix, retired from his position, and then he blew the whistle, saying there were falsified wait times and even said that records were being manipulated. Then in April of this year, the Phoenix VA system was publicly accused of misconduct. 40 deaths were linked to delays in treatment for veterans, and nearly a dozen other states also made misconduct claims. And then earlier this month, Congress placed a subpoena on Veterans Affairs Secretary Eric Shinseki. That very same day, Shinseki ordered record audits of all VA healthcare facilities across the entire United States. And now there are calls for Shinseki to resign. But Obama has defended him, and Shinseki says he has no plans whatsoever to step down. Well, just yesterday, the Department of Veterans Affairs says it will allow more veterans to receive health care at private facilities. The head of that agency says the department is now enhancing its clinic capacity to help vets get care sooner. So joining me now for more on this story is Richard Allen Smith, and he's a veteran who served 5 years in the Afghanistan war. Richard, thanks so much for being with us. Now, as a vet yourself, how do you feel about this scandal unfolding at these VA offices where some veterans have even died while waiting for treatment?
Well, first, let me say I served 5 years on active duty in the Army. I only spent 14 months in Afghanistan.
Got it.
Second, I think this is terrible what's happened in Phoenix, but I'm glad that General Shinseki is staying on board to fix the problem. I also worked for the Department of Veterans Affairs until less than a year ago. And from what I saw in there, there's a sort of a culture clash that creates problems like this, and it's between folks who are used to doing business the old way when VA was mismanaged for decades and just started to turn around when General Shinseki took over. So I'm glad he's staying on board.
Okay, but as a candidate, President Obama promised that veteran care would be one of his top priorities. Do you think he kept his promise?
Absolutely. Under General Shinseki, the quality of veteran care has improved greatly, and it's received higher marks on patient satisfaction surveys than private care. What we have here is a problem of access to care, and I think in most facilities even that's improved on General Shinseki. There's still some outliers where, like I said, for decades this department was mismanaged, so it's going to take a little while to turn the ship around. You
said access has improved. How so?
Well, if you just look at the numbers, over 2 million, almost 2 million veterans, new veterans are enrolled in VA care that weren't enrolled when General Shinseki took over. So that's from VA's outreach efforts under General Shinseki's leadership that have really been amped up in the last 5 years under additional funding from the president's budget request.
So then do you feel that part of the problem is just that it's simply too hard for the VA to keep up with that demand? You just said 2 million more. Now, should veterans see more doctors at the VA? What should happen?
Well, I think one thing that needs to happen is we need to get more funding for more doctors, more facilities. Republicans in Congress actually killed a bill in February that would have provided funding for construction of new facilities as well as some education programs. And also I think it's interesting, the new bill that was introduced last week, I believe, or passed last week, that would allow the Secretary of Veterans Affairs to terminate members for misconduct in the same sort of way that members of Congress can do in a much more expedited way than is able to other civil sector employees of the federal government.
And you feel like that's a step in the right direction?
Well, I know General Shinseki has some reservations about that, about it inhibiting his ability to attract top talent to the department. So I understand those, but I think it's a step in the right direction to be thinking that way about how we can improve the quality of the personnel that are working for Department of Veterans Affairs and the Veterans Health Administration specifically.
Richard, back up for a minute, though. Give me a personal perspective. Have you ever spent any time personally at a VA hospital, or do any of the men you know who you served with spend any time there? What was their experience like?
Absolutely, and I think I have a friend I think that seeks care at the Phoenix facility. Actually, I haven't talked to him about this specific issue, but it's sort of from spot to spot. As with any healthcare system that's this large, well, there isn't one that's this large. It's the largest, but of a certain size, you're going to get different results based on where you are. I've received great care at the Huntsville community-based outpatient clinic in Huntsville, Alabama. Great care at the Denver VA Medical Center in Denver, Colorado. I took a friend to the emergency room one night at the Pittsburgh Medical Center, and he was seen right away. So these are it's important to remember these are very isolated incidents. It's not something that's plaguing system-wide.
All right. Thanks so much. Richard Allen Smith joining us live tonight. Thanks so much, Richard.
Thank you.